Thank you for purchasing the Byos video on building your own personal computer. Along with the workbook supplied, this package includes everything you'll need to know about building and understanding the inner workings of a personal computer. It also includes detailed instructions on installing the Microsoft Windows 98 operating system. You'll find that with the Byos system, building your own PC is not only easier than you thought, but it's also a fun and exciting project. In the next half hour or so, we will show you step-by-step detailed instructions to help eliminate the confusion and frustration of assembling your own PC. Upon completion of this project, you will have improved your overall PC knowledge and talk just like a PC expert. It's easy, educational, and fun. Okay, let's get started. My son Jay, the young genius, is here to help me build our custom PC and install Windows 98. As it turns out, you're going to do most of the work.
What's new?
That's what kids are for.
Isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's so special about this Byos kit anyway?
Hey, this Byos system is rad.
Dad, nobody says rad anymore.
Okay, then it's totally awesome, all right? In any case, it's got detailed assembly, testing, and troubleshooting procedures every step of the way. With the Byos step-by-step painless guide, you can identify and correct computer problems on the spot. This way, you are managing and controlling the assembly and guaranteeing that the end result is a workable PC. Byos's 9-step installation guide is documented in further detail in your Byos handbook. For more detailed information, always refer to this Byos handbook. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we have a nice, clean, well-organized place to work.
Like my room.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't we just skip your education, take you right on into the comedy field, huh? Anyway, I think that this breakfast table is much better organized than your room. And besides, it's close to a 3-prong power outlet.
Can we get started already?
Okay, we can get started, but you have to remember, safety first. Don't hurt yourself, and don't damage any computer parts. The first and most important safety rule is to leave the power unplugged on your computer while you're working inside the PC. Secondly, make sure that you hold the components by the edges to avoid any contamination through the contacts. Always use your anti-static wrist strap when you are working on the electronic portion of the computer to avoid any static electricity. Also, try to work on an anti-static surface, possibly an anti-static pad or a bag that is included with your computer parts. And lastly, avoid any sudden drops or jars that may damage the components. During this video, I will also inform you about the assembly and testing rules and when you need to apply them.
If I do all the work, can I build my dream PC?
Hey, the CFO here has us on quite a tight budget, young man.
What's a CFO?
Well, in this case, it's Mom.
My dream just died.
Oh, no, your dream can live. We got plenty to do right here. I'll tell you what, with the knowledge that you acquire about PCs today, it can be applied to any PC. And after you become an expert because of this Byos kit, well, you might just be able to get a job making $40 an hour as a technical support expert.
$40?
Yes, and then you build your dream computer, okay? Now we'll introduce the 8 subsystems that will make up the personal computer that we're building. This also gives you an overview of the components that we purchased for this project. The motherboard, CPU, and memory subsystem we will be installing uses Intel's BX chipset, which supports an Intel Pentium 2 CPU. On this motherboard, you can select a CPU speed from 233 megahertz up to 400 megahertz. The CPU being installed is Intel's Pentium 2 CPU 400 megahertz. Memory being installed is a 64 megabyte DIMM, or dual inline memory module. The storage subsystem will include an 8 gigabyte hard disk drive, a standard 1.44 megabyte floppy disk drive, and a 32x speed CD-ROM drive. All connectors for the data signals and power are located in the back of each unit. The video display subsystem we will be installing includes the Intel 3D AGP2X graphics card and will connect to our 17-inch monitor. The communications subsystem in our installation will include a 56K fax modem card to allow access to the internet and allow us to send and receive faxes. The audio subsystem is already integrated on the motherboard. We will illustrate how to connect the external stereo speakers. The input-output subsystem includes a PS2 style keyboard and mouse. The case and power supply subsystem is an ATX-style case, or enclosure, and its power supply. And last but not least, the operating system will be Microsoft Windows 98 operating system. We will also cover the setup of the motherboard's BIOS.
Hey, Dad,
Yeah.
how come so many parts have an X in the name? Like AGP2X and MMX and ATX.
Well, you know, I think the X makes them sound fast and exciting. Like our 32X CD-ROM drive. You know, Microsoft has ActiveX. The latest CPU from Intel is the Xeon. You know, on and on. The excitement never ends.
So if I learn all the PC X words, people will think I'm an expert?
Yes, everybody except me.
Oh.
I'll think you're an expert when we're finished doing what we're doing here today, okay? All right. Now here we have a full computer toolkit, which is readily available at the local electronics store. But really, all we're going to end up using is a Phillips screwdriver with a magnetic tip. Now the magnetic tip helps us to handle and to insert these small screws easier. You see? Now keep it away from the electronic parts, including the floppy drive and the CD-ROM drive, because the magnetic tip of the screwdriver could damage the parts.
So you mean we don't need a hammer? You always say if it doesn't fit, try the hammer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was kidding when I said that. Anyway, with the BIOS video kit and the handbook, I don't think we're going to be calling upon the services of a hammer today. Okay, now we need the anti-static wrist strap so that you don't damage the parts. Before handling the electronic components, put on this anti-static wrist strap like this, that way, and then you connect the alligator clip to the case, like this.
A while ago you mentioned the motherboard. What exactly is a motherboard?
Well, the motherboard is the main board on the computer that all the other boards get plugged into. You could think of the motherboard as being the boss.
Kind of like Mom?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go over some of the features and connections found on our motherboard. First, let's start with what Intel calls slot 1, which is where we're going to install our Intel Pentium 2 CPU. Over here are the 3 sockets used for the DIMM memory modules. This is the main 20-pin connector for the power supply. And here are the floppy drive and 2 IDE drive connectors. This is the 27-pin front panel connector. It links the motherboard with the switches and light indicators on the case. Here we have the battery for the clock that keeps the date and time for the PC, even when the computer is turned off. The onboard battery can last up to 7 years. My guess is you're going to want to build a new computer before that. This jumper takes care of the CPU's speed setup. The 2 black connectors are called the ISA slots, which is where we are going to install the ISA-based modem card. The 4 white connectors are called PCI slots, which is where we would install a PCI-type add-on card. The shortest slot found on the motherboard is the AGP slot, which is used for an AGP type of video graphics card. Now, as we previously mentioned, this motherboard has built-in audio. There is also an audio connector for our CD-ROM. Now, turn the motherboard to the back panel side. This is where the mouse, keyboard, serial devices, and the printer plug in. The rear panel has the audio input and output connectors used for external speakers and microphones.
This is a lot of stuff to remember.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, the BIOS handbook has lots of good stuff in it, and we can always refer to it if we need more details. Anyway, now it's time to install the Pentium 2 CPU. Place the motherboard on a flat surface with the back side facing toward you. Pick up the retention bracket. Make sure that the square holes that are on each side of the retention bracket are closer to the front of the motherboard. Position the retention bracket over the slot 1. Align 4 fasteners on the retention bracket to the 4 mounting holes on the motherboard. Lift the right side of the motherboard to an upright position. Support the motherboard so that it will not deform while the retention mechanism is being pressed into its mounting holes. Make sure there is at least 1/2 inch of free space under each mounting hole for the fastener to protrude through the hole. Push the fasteners through the motherboard holes until you hear it snap into place. There are two pegs. Insert the larger peg into the larger hole on the left side of the motherboard. Repeat this step for the smaller peg and hole on the right side of the motherboard. Okay, pick up the CPU and make sure that the fan is facing toward you and that the power connector is facing the table so that the CPU is positioned standing upright. Pick up the right heatsink support and make sure that the flat side is facing down. Slide the support down between the grooves. Good. Then turn the CPU upside down and pick up the left heatsink support and make sure that the flat side of the heatsink support is facing down. Like the other side, slide the support down between the grooves. Position the CPU with the fan away from you. Slide the CPU into the retention mechanism and make sure that the heatsink support holes are aligned with the pegs on the motherboard. Then press the CPU down firmly until it snaps and clicks. Slide the clips on the heatsink supports forward until they latch into place with the pegs. Push the processor latches outwards. Push firmly so that they click into the locked position. Pick up the 3-wire power connector. There's a connector on each end of the wire, one brown, one white. Connect the brown side of the connector into the fan 3 white outlet on your right side of the CPU. Slide the cable through the CPU bracket. Confirm that the green wire is on the top. Then connect the white connector to the outlet on your right side of the CPU.
So it's like the computer has a brain now?
See, you're onto the concept there, pal. Oh, by the way, I got another X term for you. This Intel Pentium 2 CPU, it comes with MMX technology built in.
That's excellent knowledge, Dad.
Okay, now it's time to install our memory module. This motherboard has 3 DIMM memory module slots. You can install up to 384 megabytes of total memory. Well, we're using only one 64 megabyte DIMM module. So pick up the DIMM memory module. Now notice that the module has 2 small cutouts or keys on the bottom, which are positioned between the gold-plated pins. These 2 keys must match up with the memory module slot on the motherboard. Position the DIMM memory by matching the keys and carefully insert the DIMM memory module into the slot. The DIMM module should be at a 90-degree angle over the memory slot. Push down on one end until you hear it click. Now repeat the same procedure on the other side. And when completed, the white plastic latches on the sides of the memory slot will lock into the DIMM automatically.
If we install 256 megabytes of memory into the computer, would the PC be smarter?
Well, it won't really be smarter, but it would probably run some programs faster.
Oh, I see.
All right, now we need to prepare the case before we put the motherboard in.
Okay.
All right, let's go over a few of the components. You should take a quick look at the front of the case. The area behind the front cover panels is referred to as the 5¼ inch and the 3½ inch drive bays. Now, this is where we're going to be installing the CD-ROM, the hard disk, and the floppy drive. This switch near the top is the power switch, which is used for turning the PC on and off. The bottom switch is called the reset switch, which is used to reset or reboot the motherboard. Located below the reset switch is the power on LED and the hard disk access LED. Now, as we look at the back of the case, we see a large opening that will be used for the I/O or the input-output shield and the removable slot covers or brackets. At the top of the case is the power cord connector. Let's take a closer look at the power switch and the power cord connector. The red switch in the center is set to the actual voltage. Of course, in this case, you can set it to 115 volts for the US. Now next, we want to locate the screws on the back of the case that hold the cover. In our case, we have only 4 screws to remove. Now make sure that you don't select the power supply screws. Okay, so now put your hands on both sides of the cover, put your thumbs on the back panel and just push. Pull it right off. That's it. Okay, good job. There you go. I'll set it right under the table. Good. All right, Jay, now inside the case, you should find an ATX-style power supply. Good. A power cable. There it is. A bag of screws. That's it, okay. 5 wire strands with connectors. And I/O shields. Yeah.
Dad, what does an I/O shield do?
Oh, well, the metal I/O shield is used to shield the electromagnetic radiation that emanates from the back panel opening where the cutouts for the external motherboard connectors are. All right, now the multicolored wire strands are the connectors for the switches and the LED light indicators on the front of the case. Now, do you see that there are 3 different sizes of power connectors for connecting to the internal devices like the hard drive and the motherboard?
Mm-hmm.
Good, good. All right. We'll cover each one of those individually when we actually connect the devices later on, okay?
Okay.
Good, good. All right. Now we have to install the 4 plastic feet down at the bottom of the case.
All right, let me just tip it over here.
Good idea. Good.
Are we almost done, Dad?
I was waiting until I was going to hear that D word from you.
Don't we have to put in the motherboard soon?
Well, we're almost ready, but first we have to build the foundation for the motherboard. Okay, let's install the I/O shield. The manufacturer of this case provided 2 I/O shield panels. Now, which one would you use?
I think I would use the one that fits on the back of the motherboard panel, like this one.
Very good. And when you install the I/O shield, make sure that the tabs at the bottom of the shield are inserted into the slot from inside the back of the case. Good. Press it forward and secure it with a screw. That's it. Perfect. The I/O shield device labels must face outward so that you can read the labels from the back of the case. All right, there are 7 holes on the motherboard. So we'll need 7 brass studs. Now place the motherboard in the case. Good, and now we'll use a sharp pencil to mark the correct holes for the stud locations. Just like that. Now remove the motherboard from the case, and we'll use a marker of some sort to clearly remark the holes on the case. Now next, we'll screw in the brass studs into the holes that you've marked on the case. All right, check and make sure that the base of the case is empty, with the exception of the 7 installed studs. Okay, now carefully place the motherboard into the 7 brass studs, aligning the holes on the motherboard with the brass studs, and the input-output connectors on the motherboard with the cutout of the I/O shield on the back panel.
Which screws do we use?
Let's see here. How are we going to find the matching screws in this little pile?
Well, how about trial and error? I mean, I could just pick up a screw and, hope the thread type matches this. And maybe I'll get lucky.
You might just. Give it a try.
All right.
Good.
Hey, it
Perfect.
fits.
Excellent. All right, well, let's get 6 more, and we'll secure the motherboard to the case.
All right.
Okay, now let's connect the power to the motherboard by pushing down that motherboard power connector into the 20-pin power block. Firmly but gently. Good, because if it's not well connected, the PC is not going to be able to be powered on. Okay, we'll start by connecting the 5 wires from the front panel of the case. Now, each connector, or header, is labeled. Now, if you look closely, you can see 7 labels on the motherboard's 27-pin connector block. Match the labeled connector wires to the labeled pins on the motherboard.
But which way do they go? The different wires have different colors.
That's right. Well, there's a couple of general rules to keep in mind. First of all, the ground pin usually gets connected to either the black or the white wire. And you always have to remember that the LEDs have a plus-minus orientation, so there's really only one way to get them to light up.
I got it.
Yeah, you should be fine. Okay, the system we have built so far can run fast, but it's really useless unless you add external devices to interact with a human being.
Like a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor?
That's right. All right, let's install the AGP video card so we can connect the monitor. Remove the metal slot cover from the AGP slot by using a flat screwdriver. You push the metal cover up from the bottom and then lift the cover up and out. And remember to save the slot cover for future reinstallation. Now, carefully lower the VGA card into the slot. And firmly, but evenly, press it into the slot. Now, you might need to rock it back and forth, but it should be a pretty tight fit. Okay, now align the video card retaining bracket hole to the hole on the back panel. And we need to find the right screw and then secure it. You got it? Good, good. All right, now we're going to plug the D-shaped connector into the adapter on the back of the video card. Good, because we don't want a loose connection. When you're finished hand tightening it, use a smaller screwdriver to tighten it further. All right, now you're not going to forget to plug the monitor's power cord in, are you?
I know.
Attaboy. All right, it's time to connect the keyboard and the mouse. The label with a picture on that I/O shield will indicate where to connect the keyboard and the mouse and other devices. Perfect. Now, before we power up our system for the first time, we need to set the Intel CPU's operating speed. The CPU can be incorrectly set to run faster than is recommended, and that's similar to driving your car over the speed limit.
Now, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you now,
Oh,
Dad?
that's very, very cute. Anyway, the point is we don't want to drive this CPU faster than we should.
Right.
All right, so in order to set a correct speed for the CPU, we need to adjust the speed configuration mode on the motherboard, which we do by placing the jumper on pins 2 and 3 of jumper block J8A1. All right, my young genius, time for some worldly advice. Sometimes the best testing methods an engineer can use are the human senses.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about hearing, watching, smelling.
I smell a punchline coming.
No, this is for real. All right, a little more advice for you. It's a good practice to double check all the cable connections. Also, make sure that the extra power connectors aren't going to tangle up with that CPU fan. Let's turn that monitor on and then turn the computer on. All right, listen to the power supply fans, the CPU fan, and you can watch the power on LED. And next, the monitor will display the boot up screen and then go to the BIOS maintenance screen. Now, if you have trouble with the fans or the LED, then double check the connections. Also, make sure you don't smell something burning. Now, at this point, if nothing's on fire, you're pretty safe, but you're not totally out of the woods yet. Okay, we've now come to the part where we need to set up the BIOS.
Hey, that sounds like the name of this kit.
Well, it is, except this BIOS is spelled with an I instead of a Y. BIOS stands for Basic Input and Output System, and it's the basic software that comes with every motherboard. It's the first program that runs when you power up the computer, and the first thing it does is it tests all the parts of the system, and that test is called the Power On Self-Test, or POST. Now up to this point, Byos has just run the post-test and it displayed the results on that first screen that we saw before we came to the Byos System Utility screen. The second line of the setup menu bar lists all the major hardware details in the PC. The bottom two lines show how to edit the screens. The maintenance menu is used for setting up the CPU speed. Press Enter and choose 400 megahertz for the CPU we just installed. Press the F10 key and press Enter to exit the menu. Now the PC asks you to turn the system off for these new settings to take effect. So turn the system off now and disconnect the power cord from the AC power source. Now we set the jumper back to the normal position. On jumper block J8A1, place the jumper on pins 1 and 2. Reconnect the motherboard's power and turn on the computer and the video monitor. The motherboard is now showing 400 megahertz and 64 megabytes of memory. When the computer boots up, we hear 2 beeps and an error message is displayed. Well, this is normal because we haven't installed the floppy drive yet. Now press F2 to start the setup. The monitor will now display the main menu of the Byos utility screen. This screen shows what you have installed so far. In the main body of the text, the blue color character items are automatically detected by the computer and are there just for your information. Only the black highlighted items can be changed. The center column shows the current settings of these items. This is where we can change the settings. Let's go ahead and make a simple change. We'll set the correct date and time. Oh, you know, I forgot to tell you about the battery that's found on the motherboard. See, within the Byos program, there's a 100-year calendar clock, and the change in the date and the time in Byos resets the clock. Now, this clock, like your battery clock, it'll keep on running even when the PC isn't powered up. Now, the clock information is stored in CMOS memory, which is powered by a battery. And this is a battery with a 7-year life, which means you're going to be getting accurate readings from this thing well into your college career, my young genius.
Does this 100-year clock have anything to do with our school's year 2000 problem?
Oh, yes, the Y2K issue. Well, I guarantee you, the computer that you and I put together today is not going to have any Y2K problems.
That's good.
Next, we need to emphasize the F9 key. This is to set up the default settings in the BIOS. You should always start with the default settings and work from these to make any changes if necessary. When I'm troubleshooting hardware problems, I always do this step first. So now, press the F9 function key and press the Enter key to accept the BIOS setup confirmation. Then press the F10 key and press Enter to exit. The system will reboot. Then turn off the power to install the floppy disk drive. Now here I would like to emphasize a generally good and safe practice. Don't just turn off the power switch, but also unplug the power cord from the case to prevent powering on the PC accidentally. All right, now it's time to install our drives. Now, as I previously mentioned, we have several drive bays in which to install our hard disk, our CD-ROM drive, and our floppy drive. Now, since we're not going to be using all of them, it's important to plan this out carefully. Now, normally you would install the 3.5-inch drive in a 3.5-inch bay, and a 5.25-inch drive in a 5.25-inch bay. Okay, now use your hand to remove the plastic 5.25 and 3.5-inch covers from those corresponding bays. And this will give us access so that we can install the floppy and the CD-ROM drives. All right, now remove the screw that secures the 3.5-inch drive bay carrier. Good. Now slide the drive carrier back and pull it away from the front of the case. Excellent. Now we are going to install the floppy drive and the hard drive into the carrier. We'll do the floppy drive first. Okay, now slide the floppy drive into the drive carrier. Good. Now line the holes up on the carrier with the screw holes on the drive. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now insert all 4 screws before you tighten them. That's it. All right, now slide the hard drive into the carrier. And we'll leave a space between each drive so that we can get a good airflow. By the way, the hard drive will be hidden behind the front panel. Now line up the holes on the carrier with the screw holes on the drive. And again, insert in the screws. And then tighten them. Okay, now take the floppy drive and hard drive assembly carrier, slide it back into the front panel. Good. Now just make sure that the floppy drive is flush with the front of the case. Good. Now secure the carrier with a screw. Good job. All right, now it's time for us to install our CD-ROM drive. But before we do it, we have to set the jumpers on the CD-ROM to the master position.
Why do we have to set the jumpers?
Well, see, there's two IDE ports connected to the motherboard. And one of them is the primary connector, and the other one is the secondary connector. Now, each connector connects with a 40-pin cable, and the cable can have up to 2 IDE drives connected. One of the drives is set as the master mode, and the other as the slave mode. The mode setting is on the drive, so you can connect the master or slave drive in either position. The main boot hard disk drive has to be on the primary connector and has to be in master mode. We haven't set any jumper settings on the hard disk drive because the new drives from the manufacturer are already set in the master mode. You could set the CD-ROM drive up on the primary connector in a slave mode, but this will slow down performance. We suggest installing the CD-ROM drive as a master mode on the secondary IDE connector. Let's set the master mode settings for the CD-ROM drive. And normally there is a diagram on the CD-ROM unit showing the jumper blocks and their appropriate settings. On the back of the CD-ROM we can see 3 sets of pins that match with the diagram. Set the jumper to make it the master mode. Okay, now why don't you insert the CD-ROM drive into the case and make sure that it's flush with the front. Good. Now go ahead and secure it with 4 screws. There are 2 critical assembly rules to remember in connecting PC parts. Rule number 1, the mechanical compatibility. Look closely to see and verify how they fit together before connecting them. Now, rule number 2, the electrical compatibility. Align the correct pin 1 orientation. Wrong orientation may damage the PC hardware. There are 2 cables to connect before we can start testing the floppy drive. The 34-pin ribbon cable and the power cable. Let's connect the power cable first. There are 2 different sizes of power connector. Choose the smaller one. Connect the 4-wire power cable with the 4-pin power connector on the floppy drive. Then connect the 34-pin cable. Notice the red stripe on the cable. This red stripe identifies it as the pin number 1 on the connector. Connect the header with the 7-wire twisted end to the floppy drive. And connect the other end to the motherboard connector that is clearly labeled for the floppy connection. Now we'll test to make sure that our floppy drive installation is correct. Double check all the connections we have tested so far. Now remember, always plug the power cord in last before you turn the computer on. Press the power switch. Again, the power on is lit, and the system will go through the post test, and the monitor will display the boot up screen. Then the floppy drive LED will turn on. This indicates that the Byos is trying to read the operating system startup program from the diskette. Since it has found no disk, the monitor displays operating system not found. And then the floppy drive LED light will turn off. So far, your assembly is okay. Now, turn off the power switch and remove the power cord from your PC. If the floppy drive LED stays on and the display shows error, you might have the wrong cable orientation. Recheck the cable connection and retest. The same procedure applies to testing the hard disk drive. There are 2 cables to connect before we can start testing the hard disk drive: the 40-pin ribbon cable and the power cable. As we mentioned before, there are two 40-pin connectors on the motherboard, the primary and the secondary IDE. We're going to be using the primary IDE connector to connect our hard drive. All right, as with our floppy drive connector, the red stripe on the 40-pin cable is identified as pin 1. Connect the cable to the motherboard primary connector. Match the red stripe side to the connector pin 1 side, and press evenly until it locks into place. On the hard disk drive side, pin 1 is located next to the power connector. Position and install the cable in this orientation. Press evenly until it locks into place. Finally, we will connect one of the larger 4-wire power cable connectors to our hard drive. The hard drive power connector is somewhat fragile, so please be careful when installing it. Okay, now we'll test to make sure that our hard drive installation is correct. Double check all the connections we've tested so far. Now remember, always plug the power cord in last before you turn the computer on. Okay, now turn on the system. On the front panel, the green Power On LED will stay on, and the hard drive LED, the yellow light, will flash on and then go off. You can also hear the sound of the hard drive spinning. Again, the system will go through the post-test process, and the monitor will display the boot-up screen. At this time, the screen will add one more line to indicate that the hard drive has been installed. And again, the BIOS will try to read the operating system startup program, first from the diskette, then from the hard drive. Since it found no startup program from either the floppy or hard drive, the monitor again displays operating system not found. Your assembly is still okay, so let's turn the power off. Now, you may find the PC is still running even after you press the power off button. Don't worry, the system is working fine. Don't forget to pull the power plug from the case. If the system isn't working as shown, check all the connections and also check the hard drive to see if it is on the master mode.
Hey, Dad, what's this extra cable for?
This cable is the audio cable for the CD-ROM. It will transfer sound from the CD-ROM to the sound chip that's located on the motherboard. That way we can hear music or audio CDs. Okay, let's go ahead and install the CD-ROM drive cables. Again, look at the diagram and connect it to CD-ROM drive audio out. Just press firmly in the slot until it snaps into place. Now the other end goes to the motherboard connector. There are 3 identical connectors on the motherboard. Plug into the one labeled audio in. Now let's connect the 40-pin cable. This will be similar to the hard drive installation procedures. In this case, pin 1 on the CD-ROM is at the right top pin closest to the power connector. Insert the 40-pin ribbon cable into the CD-ROM connector. Next, connect the 40-pin cable to the secondary IDE port on the motherboard. Finally, same as the hard drive, connect the 4-wire power cable to the CD-ROM drive. Now we'll test to make sure that our CD-ROM drive installation is correct. Double check to see that there are no loose connections. Now remember, always plug the power cord in last before you turn the computer on. Now turn on the system. On the front panel, the green Power On LED light will stay on, and the hard drive LED, which is yellow, and the CD-ROM drive LED will flash on and then turn off. Again, in the meantime, the system will go through the post-test process and the monitor will display the boot-up screen. This time the screen will add one more line indicating the CD-ROM drive. And again, the BIOS will try to read the operating system startup program, first from the diskette, second from the hard drive, and third from the CD-ROM drive. Since it found no startup program in any of these drives, the monitor displays operating system not found again. If all of the above indicators are fine, your assembly procedures are correct. If not, then recheck the connection. This time we will use the reset button to restart the computer system. When you see the bottom line in the boot up screen display this, then press F2. The BIOS setup utility shows up. If you miss it, reset again. In the BIOS Setup Utility screen, move from the Main to the Advanced menu. The Plug and Play OS option is now highlighted. Since Windows 98 is a plug-and-play operating system, we will enable this option. Press Enter and select Yes, and press Enter. Now move the cursor to the Peripheral Configuration option. Press Enter to go to the Peripheral Configuration submenu. Move the cursor to the Legacy USB Support option and press Enter to select Enabled. Selecting this option enables you to use any USB device. Now let's press Escape to return to the Advanced menu. Move the cursor to the Boot menu. This controls the sequences where the CPU reads the operating system startup program. Verify that the first boot device is a removable device, and the second boot device is the hard drive, and the third is the CD-ROM.
So it goes through the same procedure each time?
Exactly right. When the system boots up, the CPU looks for the startup program, first from the drive A, the floppy drive. If there is no bootable disk there, then the CPU goes to the second option, which is the hard drive. And if it is not bootable, then it goes to the CD-ROM drive. You can exit by using the F10 key, but this time we'll show you a different way. Move the cursor to the Exit menu, press Enter, and accept it to reboot the system. When it reboots, you will notice that the Legacy USB has been enabled. Again, the PC will have the same Operating System Not Found display. When installing Windows 98, make sure you have your mouse installed or the setup procedures will be difficult using only the keyboard. Let's insert the Windows 98 CD now. Press the Reset button. The screen shows two options to start up. Choose 2 to boot from the CD-ROM. Then choose the first option, Start Computer with CD-ROM Support, and press Enter to continue the Windows setup. Press Enter again to choose the Configure Unallocated Disk Space option. Select Yes to enable the Large Disk Support option. Although the screen display calls for a boot disk in Drive A, it is not necessary. Simply press Enter, and the computer will restart automatically. Again, the computer will display the same options as before. Choose 2 to boot from the CD-ROM again. Choose 1 to set up from the CD-ROM. The computer is starting to format your hard drive and displaying the progress. The larger the drive capacity, the longer it takes to format. Since formatting the hard drive takes a while, we are going to show just the beginning and a part of the end. Right after 100% formatting the hard disk drive, press Enter to continue. The computer will scan the hard drive and check the system. Then the Windows 98 setup screen will show up. From here on out, the procedure is pretty self-explanatory. Just follow the directions given by the Windows 98 setup program and accept all of the default settings. The process takes about 30 minutes. Click Continue to prepare Setup Wizard program. Select this default setting. Choose Typical for the setup option here. Choose the setup to install the most common components. Now the setup program will ask you for the computer ID that will allow you to identify the computer in a network environment. Just type your computer name or accept default. Choose the location where you are. At this point, the setup program will start to copy your files to the hard disk. This step will probably last about 6 minutes, and it will then give you a variety of screens while it's working. Now, these are just informational screens, but it's a good idea to read them because they'll give you some features of the Windows 98 program. During this time, the setup program does not require your input, and the computer will restart by itself. The well-known Windows 98 logo will display for the first time. Now the setup program asks for your name, so type it in, and if you like, type in your company name in the space provided. The next thing you're going to get is the licensing agreement. Click that you'll accept, or it won't let you continue the setup. Next, you'll be asked to enter the product key of your software. On the front of the owner's manual is the product key for your software. Just type in that number in the space provided, and click Finish to continue. Now the computer will set up your hardware devices. This is another 5 to 6 minute process. The computer will restart automatically again. Next, the program asks for the time zone where you live under date-time properties. Now the computer is setting items such as the control panel, Windows help programs, etc. Then the computer will restart automatically again. After restarting, the screen asks for your password. Type whatever you want, or simply click OK. Then the setup loads the Windows 98 desktop program, and from here on, the Windows 98 operating system will take control of your PC system. Now double-click on My Computer. Double-click on Control Panel. Double-click on System. Click on the Device Manager tab. This screen is what they call the hardware tree. You see a yellow question mark on the PCI multimedia audio device. This means that the device is not working because the drivers for this device are not installed. Let's follow the manufacturer's instructions to load the driver. Take out the Win98 CD. Insert the audio driver CD. After all the drivers are installed, you will be able to hear the music. Now it shows the device works properly. Click Close. And click the plus sign. It will have 6 items under the Sound, Video, and Game controller. We'll also load the correct display driver. Double-click on the display adapter. Click on the standard PCI VGA. Click on the Properties button. Go to the Driver tab and select Update Driver. Insert the manufacturer-provided video driver CD into the CD-ROM. Click the first option to search for the driver. Click Next. Click Browse. Double-click on this. Click in the Win9X folder. Well, here you go again, another X word. In this case, the Win9X means either Win95 or Win98. Click OK, then follow the instructions and click the Finish button. The computer will ask to restart. Click Yes to restart the computer. After installing the video driver, you can change the display properties such as the resolution and colors to match your monitor's maximum capabilities. For this video, we will stay at the 640 by 480 resolution. Now everything is set except the most exciting thing that everyone is talking about, the 56K modem, the connection to the internet. Okay, before we install the modem, I want to explain 2 very important concepts to you. One of them is called the interrupt request. The other one's called plug and play. Now, without knowing these 2 concepts, we still can't call you an expert, okay? Now, let me draw an analogy for you. You know how a juggler throws items in the air? If there's too many items, they all fall down. Now, our PC can handle 16 items. We throw in one more item, well, the computer goes nuts, all right? Now, that item, that 17th item, is called an interrupt request, or an IRQ. Now, some IRQs are already permanently reserved. Theoretically, plug and play means when you plug in an add-on card, the computer's going to go about the business of trying to allocate an IRQ for it. If one's available, it should work just fine. If none is available, we'll see, now then the computer's going to go on strike or lock up or quit. And that's when some people call it plug and pray. All right, let's go back to the hardware tree to see if we still have IRQs available. Click Computer. Click Property. Now you can see that all the IRQs from 0 to 15 have been taken. This means if you want to install another add-on card to the PC, you have to disable another one of them. The best candidate is IRQ3, which was taken by COM2. I'll show you how we're going to do that now. Let's turn off the PC, pull out the power cord, and install the modem card now. The modem card has a jumper, but leave it in the plug and play mode. The modem is an ISA card, so we'll install it in one of the ISA slots. As with the video card, lower the modem card down into the black ISA slot and firmly press it down until it snaps into place. Good, then secure it with a screw. And then connect the telephone line into the telco jack, just like that. Reconnect the power cord. Restart the machine and enter the BIOS setup by pressing F2. Under the BIOS setup, go to Advanced, then go to Peripheral Configuration. Press Enter to go to the Serial Port B option. Press Enter and select Disabled, and press Enter. Serial Port B is also known as COM2. This will free up an IRQ line for the modem card. Press F10 to save and exit. Now the computer will reboot and Windows 98 will detect the modem. Click the first option, Search for the best driver. Click Next. Click on the CD-ROM drive. Click Found the modem driver. Click Next. Click Finish. Click on the control panel icon. Click the modem icon. Type your own area code and telephone number if you want, then click Close. Click the Diagnostic tab. Click COM2. Click More Info. Within a minute, the screen should display the modem setup and test result. And now the modem is ready for the internet connection. Next time, if you want to install any additional cards, you would again have to allocate or disable another IRQ. In the near future, buying USB-type devices will eliminate the need for IRQs. Hey, you are done, my young genius.
Wow, awesome, it actually works.
Yeah, you just built a PC from scratch.
Can I buy a CD game for it?
See, now that's Mom's decision.
CFO stuff?
That's right.
Man.
Now remember, we built this PC from start to finish. You can work at your own pace. A little bit today, a little bit tomorrow. And if you ever need any information or have any trouble, you can consult the handbook. And if you want information on other products and services by Byos, contact us at our website at www.byos.com or email us at info@byos.com. Congratulations and good luck with your new PC.